This occurred in 1978. We're talking about the unsolved Burger Chef murders.
This was the situation on November 17, 1978, when assistant manager Jane Freet, Mark Flemons, Daniel Davis, and Ruth Shelton clocked in for their final closing shift. So this shift was pretty uneventful.
And then at 11:43 p.m., Brian Kring and Ginger Richards drove past the Burger Chef and noticed something strange. The restaurant's lights were still on, but Jane's car was nowhere in sight. They thought, why would the assistant manager leave before her shift was over? Brian told Ginger that he would check in on the restaurant after he had dropped her back off at the house and returned to check in on the Burger Chef. And he arrived just before 12:15, and he noticed that the door was open and all of the lights were on. As he walked in, Brian quickly noticed that no one was there. So finally, Brian checked the manager's office. And once he walked in there, he noticed that the safe was both open and emptied and missing about $581. And immediately after discovering the empty safe, Brian called the Speedway Police Department. So after surveying the scene, responding officers decided on this theory. The four teenagers just decided to take all that money, and then they drove Jane's car and left. So no photos of the restaurant were even taken before the opening shift cleaned everything up.
Well, this investigation really started ramping up when Jane's car was discovered abandoned 2 miles from the restaurant. And guess where it was parked? Across the street from the police station. But searches were organized on November 18th, but still they weren't able to find anything. But then just after noon on November 19th, some hikers in Johnson County, which is about 20 miles away from Speedway, came across a very disturbing scene. First, the hikers found Ruth and Daniel lying side by side, face down on the ground. A few yards away, Jane was also lying face down as if she had tried to flee. Mark was further down from her, lying on his back against a tree with his legs curled up behind him. Detective Kramer noticed several unique elements about these murders. For one, homicides stemming from fast food robberies to take place at a location other than the restaurant. On top of that, the four victims were killed in 3 different ways. Ruth and Daniel shot in the head and neck. Jane had been stabbed twice through the heart. Mark was beaten and sustained a large bruise on his face that had caused his nose to hemorrhage. He had drowned to death on his own blood. This led investigators and others to believe that there may have been a personal connection between the killers and one of them.
The scene itself seemed like it was cleaned by an experienced crew. No forensics could be found at the location of the murders, which is so bizarre. And then, of course, there's the restaurant. And when Speedway police heard that their bodies had been found, they, of course, returned to the Burger Chef, and they tried to restage it the same way that they remembered seeing it early in the morning on the 18th, because of course they didn't take pictures, so they just had to take a guess. And then they took pictures and tried to pass those photos off as authentic crime scene photos rather than reconstructions.